Hello everyone. Hope you guys can hear us. Welcome aboard to the StudioPOD podcast series, and this is the 4th episode. Today we are lucky to have Sujata Hingorani with us.
Yay! Woo! Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
The speciality of this episode is that for the first time we have a celebrity attending our podcast. Sujata is a celebrity. I say this because she has such wide network of contacts all across the industry. She is the one who brings a lot of different disciplines together. I've seen her in different forums, donning different roles, and she is an amazing mentor to a lot of people that I know. And lately, we've gotten to know each other, and since then, it has been an interesting conversation, which we thought would be really good to share with all of you. So, welcome aboard, and Sujata. Sujata is trained as a landscape architect, but she's also a co-founder of Oasis Design New Delhi. Oasis Design needs no introduction. They are really well known in the field of landscape, urbanism, architecture, and have been the shining light for all the other urban designers in the country who've been following their work and their footsteps. So welcome aboard, Sujata. Say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, StudioPod, for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be with friends, actually. You guys are real good friends. So, to have friends in the same fraternity is, a big thing, privilege, yeah, right. So
Sarfraz forgot to say that Mahesh and I are here, but that's okay. He was so excited to introduce you, but
because he introduced you as StudioPod,
Yeah.
so you didn't say the name.
But Mahesh and I are also here.
Yeah, so we have also been blessed with the presence of Mansi Sahu and Mahesh Wagdare. So as you guys are aware, the Teen Tigadas of StudioPod are here, and we are really excited to have Sujata Hingorani share some insights about her journey, about herself, and the entire discipline of urban design, planning, and landscape architecture with us.
I think to kick off, let's ask Sujata what is her journey been. What's the story of Oasis Design? How did it start? Where are you guys now from where you started? If you could give us a little bit of background.
So, I am old. I feel old, especially among.
That's not a particularly good way to start a podcast.
Because we started way back in 2001. That's why I'm saying. Now it's been like 23 years since Oasis has been there. And when we started off, Akash was already into the profession of architecture. So we got married in 2000, and 2001 we started Oasis, and I decided that we are not going to do architecture so much as in like just looking at buildings. Rather, let us look at what is the problem in our public spaces. So we used to go for dates basically and see all the mess that was around the city. And ye aise kyun hai? Then just before that, I had just come from the US and Europe trip, and so I was exposed to the best practices kind of thing, and we wanted to make a difference. So 2001, 2002, we just went and cold calling to NDMC, and we told the then chairperson that we want to do something for your whatever. So he just said, "तुम मालचा माफ कर लो." He said, "अच्छा ठीक है." So we made a proposal for Malcha Mark, and then he had his own architecture department. So he just compared, okay, this looks better. So that is how we got our first public project. And Malcha Mark, intuitively, we did not know much about urban design. I did my landscape architecture from SPA, and then I did 2 years of training with Professor Shahir. So after that, immediately I got married and whatever. So, but intuitively we knew that this place has to be pedestrianized. So we took out the cars, put it on the place where, a little away, and we made the pedestrianization of Manchamarg Market.
Nice.
Then we started just trying out wherever there were projects in Noida, Greater Noida. We've done some parks there, understanding, getting into the nuances, but it was just sporadic. But around 2009, 2010, when the Commonwealth Games were happening, so there was a kind of a momentum and the energy where a lot of disciplines kind of came together. So there was UTPEC also, which was formed at that time.
Right.
So under the umbrella of UTPEC, we were there, and so we wanted to participate in the street designs which were going to happen. So we were there, Pradeep Sachdeva was there, then Sandeep, Anvita, these transport planners were like amazing, and then of course Romy Roy heading UTPEC at that time, and so it was a real amazing energy, and we had interactions with Romy in which she said that मुझे TOD करना है, और हमें TOD क्या होता है पता भी नहीं था. So then just before that we had gone to Hong Kong, and we couldn't understand कि कहाँ से all the connections were happening, from the walkway shops you just go to building lobby and then you move, and we couldn't understand how the planning would have happened. But then slowly we understood that what is TOD, and we were fortunate enough to have been part of the Karkarduma TOD planning which UTPEC was doing, where they were just testing out all the various planning principles on the Karkarduma. So then we got introduced to the transport planners, how they do the testing out, the urban design, the mixed use, how that comes in. So that from then on the confidence kind of came in that yes, this is how, it can't be just like one particular stream, we have to look at our public spaces holistically. But there was this little thing in my, I don't know, that I'm a landscape architect, I don't know, urban design, architecture are like big thing, kind of a thing. Landscape architects generally in India are not given like the first rate citizen wala treatment. So initially I was like, yeah, how to get out of that whole thing. But slowly it built over time that I am in a special place.
Right.
Being a landscape architect, understanding the details, understanding all the other streams, we can bring something more to this whole profession, kind of a thing. So that is where the confidence came in.
Nice.
So then on, it's like, as they say.
So it's interesting, right? From 2000, when India had just turned a corner, and you've seen the growth and the change in energy in general. I remember graduating in 2004, and I could feel there's a wind of change that is coming in India. And then that's the time when we decided to go for our masters. But whenever we were there in the US, we knew things were changing back home. And I don't know if people before that had experienced this little wind of change that probably you got to be really closely associated with. And there was this real positivity saying that, things are going to move very quickly and for the good in this place. Did you notice that? And did that influence your...
Initially, it was like running against the tide. The public urban design landscape, nobody was interested, and we were the only ones interested. So it was easy for us to get into those projects. But there was no momentum.
So when do you see the momentum change?
Momentum changed after the JM Road project happened, and then the street design, and then immediately now, because so many smart city projects and the public space and all have come in, the momentum is here and now. I feel there was a lot of construction happening between 2000 to 2010, but flyover construction. So I don't know, at least in Delhi. So we were not very happy with that. So the PWD engineers used to go to this UTPEC and used to say, अरे इधर ना 4000 PCU हो गया है, अभी तो रोड चौड़ी करनी पड़ेगी. हाँ, तो मतलब they used to like somebody would pass that and उधर flyover आ जाता था, जलेबियाँ आ जाती थी. So like that's a lobby.
Yeah. No.
So flyover is a lobby.
Still, I think
Even now.
it holds true even today. That ये PCOs count करके the need to expand the roads is still something that is a vicious cycle that I don't think any of us is getting out of this very easily.
No, we need to. So we need to find. All of us need to find those the streaks of light to penetrate and find the way. I think to have a narrative which will be against this, because since the time Delhi started building the flyovers, what is the traffic situation, or is life better for everybody? So like it's not.
Yeah, I think the narrative is changing slowly. First, development equal roads, and we're trying to change that conversation to development equal streets and good neighborhoods and walkability, and all of that is just starting to pour in it. And I think the conversation is getting, people are talking about safer spaces. India is talking about inclusivity. You know, how do you include people? How do you have more ridership for women? So I think the conversations are starting.
And the latest budget talks about TOD.
And the latest budget is talking about that. So we have seen that in 10 years. Initially, so as 3 urban designers, when we went to pitch, they were like, why do we need to pay you also? Because what you're doing is we are getting for free. So,
by the way, you people came like a storm. I remember we were just doing some projects, and suddenly we came across your some amazing graphics and design of some post. And we said, this is good, yeah, like let's tie up with them, let's do something. Then I think we had only called you, and then after that Sarfaraz came to our office, and then that's how we became friends. That was way back.
And I remember the conversation on our end that time was that I think someone from Oasis had come, somebody was working, and they were like, we know you. And we were like, wow, Oasis knows us. So
that was a big.
That was like our moment. We were like, wow, Delhi mein people know us, so it's good.
So yeah, so you know, we are always looking. That is another thing that we've learned from that whole UTPEC time.
Yeah,
you know, so once you share and do projects together and share ideas, you enrich yourself. The knowledge is not diminished. It is expanded. So that we learned, and we decided that we want to be in company of people who are making a difference, and we thought that you guys were. So like, you know, and we are in the same kind of space where we can all grow together, not be like adversaries.
Yeah, when we also started StudioPOD, was the same thing that what exactly you said, right? That when you the whole journey you talked about, there's so much of stuff to do around in the city, and we need more of us and many of us to actually make an impact. And you have definitely done so much work right now, all these years.
And there is so much to be done still. There's like, we are in
every corner of this country needs work.
Exactly.
And we just don't have enough.
And then we talked about flyovers, but we did not talk about climate change and how it's affecting our cities, and how then like that landscape antenna of mine, we can solve the problem through you know, landscape design.
True.
So that is something which I feel that we should kind of continue and find the problems through landscape.
You spoke about a very interesting thing when you were talking about how when you working with people in government entities, right, public agencies, landscape or urban design is often seen as this whole beautification kind of exercise, right? Everybody wants to kind of really beautify things and make things kind of, you can easily look at places and go in. But when you talk about actually climate change, resiliency, and how those systems affect, what is your experience been as a woman leader in the fraternity to actually convince agencies or so for example streets, where the landscape you're talking about is not only beautifying the spaces and getting more trees in, but also taking care of the water, and how are you actually integrating infrastructure, and how difficult it has been as a journey when you meet people on site. PWD aage abhi samne, so we have to convince this guy.
So there are multiple levels on that. So there is one level in which you're talking to the bureaucrats and the top layer of people who still understand because of their wide range of experience, and then the contractors or even the engineers who are the project management generally. So all the levels of speaking to them, interacting with them is different. So bureaucrats would still understand, but again the money aspect, how much somebody can spend on beautification. I have no problem in saying my project is beautification if somebody is putting a budget on that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we need budget. Now we know, like if you guys do something, we do something, we'll do it thoughtfully with all the aspects. Even if it is called a beautification project, fine. So that is something, if they are ready to spend on that, we will do that project. Then comes the engineers, and then they get into details कि ये नहीं हो सकता, वो नहीं हो सकता, अरे drain तो बनाना ही पड़ेगा, NV से कि नहीं ये. So those negotiations, that comes through experience.
Correct.
From अरे हमने तो ये करा हुआ है पहले, we have already done that, so then we can convince them. Then the third level is the contractor. Initially, the contractors just love to pour concrete.
Yeah.
So this is too complex an exercise for them. So they don't find that willingness to paving pattern, ye change ho raha hai, there is this band here, and they don't want to do all of that. So then you have to tell them that just do one stretch, pilot stretch. Once they started and it starts looking nice, then it starts getting eyeballs, they start. So this happened with us in Coimbatore when we did that project, no? The contractor got so interested, then he started doing things on his own, and then he used to come up with an idea and we used to insert that in our design, which is like fine, So because it's our project, all together.
It's part of the team, so sense of ownership he got, right?
Yeah, he got the sense of ownership. We were happy, chalo, good. So like that. But it's a mixed bag of contractors. Sometimes you get good ones. Like when we did in Srinagar, when we did the Lal Chowk contractor was a little difficult, but the Ghantaghar contractor was very good. So in one space we had different types of contractors. So
it's a continuous conversation, right? Ki why are you doing this? Why? I think it also goes to detailing, right? They're not used to detailing it so much. They think क्या है, footpath है, बना दो, खत्म करो, road पे
focus
होगा. But I think the conversation is changing with how do you detail the footpath right.
This is what I wanted to ask you guys, because generally what I've seen, I'm sorry, but I have this notion about urban designers, because urban designers come to our office and we have to teach them detailing. So how did you, all are urban designers,
yes.
No? So how did you guys do such good detailing?
I guess, so I think I would say that I learned my detailing from Christopher. I worked at Christopher Charles Manager for 3 years, and he made me work on toilets for 6 months of my life. I detailed 120 toilets where I made each tile joint meet. Each commode was exactly in the center, and he checked all of them.
So how many toilets did you do, Sarfaraz?
And I think it taught me that detailing of the space that nobody cares about is equally important as the facade. And he always said that there's urban design and there's civic design, and let's not mix that. Civic details should not change. That too has to happen. The rest is up to you. So I think that, and Sarfaraz is
I think
also
one of the main things all of us actually before doing urban design did practice architecture for a few years and then went for masters. So that actually makes a lot of sense. We have seen a lot of folks right now who have done urban design. They might, for whatever reasons, after architecture, just for another kind of a thing, go for masters and come back. So that initial grinding which is there
You
is
need that.
very much
So
required.
either in architecture or like for us landscape. I worked with Professor Shahi for 2 years after my masters and 6 months before my masters. So proper grinding happened. You know.
I think it also teaches you grit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And you
teaches
need
you
grit.
grit.
Like
Yes.
for 1 green mile, we made almost 150 drawings. We issued the GFC more than 25 times for the same set.
Yeah.
And it's normal, but because every time if someone came with a detail, we had to change everything and say, "ठीक है, नहीं काम कर रहा है." So I think.
Also, I think it's also, if I but in some ways it comes after the grit and the determination to say that I won't give up comes from this effect that has on you. Say, I need to make this difference happen, right?
Yes.
If you start letting things go,
Yes.
then it will be the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if you had to make a difference, you have to then not give up on some of the things. And
Yeah.
one of the things was detailing, saying that it used to bother me to
And
hell
it
when I
makes a difference.
when
Detailing
I-
makes
yeah, when
so
we-
much of a difference.
when I used to walk with my daughter from her daycare to home.
Yeah.
At every jump at a curve, it used to kill me almost, saying that I wish I get a chance to fix this. And when
Here is where I should add a topic of we need beauty, we need art in our lives. It is it's a must.
Yeah.
Otherwise, our cities are like machine.
right.
You know, so we need those levels of details that you have gone into, what we have gone into making the Ghandaghar. Like all of that is because, and people love to be in those places because it feels, for them it feels like they are being cared for.
Yeah.
So it's about the message of being cared
Yeah.
that the people should feel in a city.
Yeah.
Which with our flyovers and whatever wide roads and the people push to the footpath next to the boundary wall, that is when the people feel that they are alienated and they are in like exiled kind of a place where
Correct.
they don't belong.
Correct.
So art and those spaces make that difference of people finding a place in the city where they belong.
Right.
So
Yeah, and
I
it
think-
gives them a platform to say that the city cares for me. You're
Yes.
absolutely right, and hence I should care about the city. So it
Yes.
works as an interesting two-way street
Yes.
where suddenly they become possessive about the space that the auntie at
1 green mile is the same thing.
who takes care
Yes,
of all the
they
kids
do,
there
yeah.
voluntarily, saying that please make sure they're safe, and all of that just happens with this mutual sharing of care. I think that's a really
Yes,
well put
yes. That it is
philosophy
it
that
is
if
a
we-
metaphysical philosophy. It is not. They will not. One person will not say that I am not cared for.
Yeah.
But when they see that messy environment where there's nothing for them to, lay their eyes on, rest in, like softly, even nature, even good texture, even good detail, so then they feel alienated.
Yeah.
So that kind of a thing is so important,
Yeah.
which we don't understand.
And I think it also, like, I think our role is also how do you make it fun. So definitely we want to say that walking is great, streets are great. If you want people to get out of the luxury of their cars, they have to come out on something fun. So, and once it becomes fun, once they can walk with their kids, once they can stop, then I think the culture of enjoying the streets will come back, and art and play and safety and all these details play a huge role. Today, like I have a 9-month-old and I cannot afford to take the pram out like in my street because there's no curb cut. And that is so sad because
little curb cut makes such a
such
difference. in
exactly, and we think that's an ADA thing, and then the conversation goes to the percentage of people who need ADA, but the reality is that everybody has
Everybody
kids,
needs.
everybody has a pram. So many people have knee problems. There are almost every you know, 1 out of 5 women can get pregnant, they need ramps. So I think the minute we think that they belong, we will start seeing them on the street.
Them. And another aspect of that is, one is the belonging and the fun part of it, and it is also about convenience. In
Correct.
Delhi, it is so easy to take a car from one place to another.
Correct.
And it is difficult to take public transport and bus. So how can we expect people to shift their modes?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we have to make convenient for people to use the metro and use public transport, have better footpaths, and also we had discussed it before that we need better scales in our city.
Correct.
So scale is something which we feel, in fact in Mumbai you have better scale, at least in Bandra area,
Yeah.
not in the larger regions, but Bandra has amazing scale and eyes on the street, and you know, the mixed use
Yeah.
typology that comes in. And in Delhi, I feel like I have done streetscaping of different scales. So from 24-meter right of way means with your road, your footpath, boundary to boundary, and from 24 to 45, above 45 meters right of way, you don't feel you're part of the city. You are on an arterial street.
Yeah.
So I feel we should not have too much hierarchy. Places like New York, Barcelona, they don't have hierarchy. So I don't know whether we should have so much hierarchy, that arterial, subarterial within our streets. So those are very transport and very mechanistic kind of ideas.
It's a
And we
formula,
need
yeah.
to we need to question the formula.
Yeah. Because very archaic kind of planning which has
Yes.
been there for ages, right? And that's where the scale, what you just talked about in with this landscape urban design, and how you actually seamlessly go from one point to the other and be
Yes.
comfortable, be safe in well-lit places, and like, really have fun at the same time and doing all these things as well,
Yes.
right? It's one of the coolest things that we when we were looking at all the precedents and everything when we do all our work, right? But Oasis also is working on a lot of public spaces apart from streets, which is like, for example, the Coimbatore lakefronts which were there. So how do you feel the transition and the transformations that happen, and how when people make it a part of their lives, right, and then really own it up? What is the, like, when you've seen these places transform from where they really began, when there was nothing?
I
You try
think
to
it is
kind
an
of
opium for us. Isn't it? For us, it's a
It is the
nasha.
ultimate win, right? To see people use
Yeah,
your space.
so yeah, that is, we don't want like too many cars, too many.
You know, I remember the smart city proposal that Oasis had submitted for Coimbatore, and there was this big reveal of
all the smart city proposals came, they were
and
announced
we
at the same
No,
time.
no, that was
and-
Guwahati.
Guwahati.
Ah,
We did,
ah,
in Guwahati, you also had a connected
Yes,
lake
yes,
system.
yes,
proposal.
yes,
yes.
And I clearly remember downloading all of them, and I said, this like deserves to win. And then you got to implement it in
Coimbatore. So like we started from Delhi, it did not happen. Then we went to Guwahati, it did not happen. Somewhere it happened. And that also partially. It's not like a full on kind of a thing, but it's okay. Like
It's a pretty big.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a pretty
Yeah.
big.
Pretty big win, yeah.
8 lakes, I think, is it? It's an 8 lake system,
Hmm.
but you got to work on a pretty large part of
Yeah,
the lake.
yeah. So it was more of like a string of along the lake, the string of development around, and that would affect the lives of so many people because it kind of spread out through
Yeah.
the city.
Yeah.
And I think that, so when you talk of scales and coloring outside the boundary, like we've always seen that even for us, even no matter what profession, they always put you in a certain boundary, right? We've especially seen landscape architects ke saath that they're always called at the end of the project.
Exactly.
And they're always given a courtyard and said, iske andar color karo, right?
This is
And
your
then-
scope.
Scope. And for us as urban designers, we are given, say, a plot. And then for planners at policy level, they expect them to write everything on an Excel, which is a whole other challenge. So how do you think we can blur these boundaries and also start coloring outside. So I think the idea of connected systems, that lakes, is not a boundary. It just goes beyond so many systems.
It's
right?
like, where does the in between space feature in the
Between all
in the
these,
narrative?
yeah.
So one is that, and I think it should start from education. I don't know, like I saw the CEPT urban design have tried to
blur it.
Yeah, blur it a bit. There is a long way to go still, but it is going to happen. See, we all have to understand, especially with your practice, our practice, that things are not so easy, and it's so complex, and we have been too long in our own silos, from architecture to landscape, but now people are getting receptive, and the journey will happen to when all the boundaries will be blurred, kind of a thing. So we have to keep, and there may be that, like what Malcolm Gladwell says, no, the turning point, or the tipping point, the tipping point. Yeah. So suddenly it may just feel that, why are we doing this?
No, but what is interesting is when in throughout my time in the US, I realized that a lot of cities in the US were built by landscape architects who laid the framework for a large scale city, in which they understood water, they understood park networks, they understood all the other things, and then later on came the architects and everyone else, and that was really interesting for me, and my journey towards landscape has an understanding. This has had a big impact on.
Which cities are you talking about? Like,
So,
for
like,
example,
for
because there are a lot of US cities like Austin and whatever.
No, so there are three different places where, one was US has been a big speculative market. So there were people sitting in one part of the country, laying out speculative plots in other part of the country, selling them off, and that became the plan. And that was San Francisco, suppose, for instance. But then comes Olmsted, and he lays out a plan for Boston, and then the grid then follows around Boston's green sort of necklace, and that makes it. Similarly, there are other homestead plans in Chicago, and there are other homestead cities where the stream became the main thing, the entire landscape became the main story, and then around that became development. Sometimes a lot of the US is low density and really suburbia, but even in suburbia, their suburbias are responding to the water way better than our suburbias are.
This is what I've understood in US. They do respond to water better. In fact, better than Europe also. They do respond to water, but I don't think they respond so much to the land use, land use and the density. Yeah, so we have to take the best practices from everywhere. And talking about best practices, when we go to Japan, Tokyo and all, so there the whole development is around transit. So you have, they don't call it TOD. It is naturally around transit. But everything is commercial. Everything is given to some company or the other. So when we were going around every station in Japan, we could not see a single place to sit. Only places to sit were in restaurants. So they just want you to spend money.
Yeah, spend money.
So that is something which I found non-people centric. You have no place to sit. So it's like a design kind of a thing.
So it's interesting. So US has its land use issues. Europe has some other challenges, I'm sure, which is about density or inclusion or something of the other. I'm sure Asian cities there have their own challenges. So as an urban designer, you can't really pinpoint towards one model and say that I'm going to make Bombay Singapore, or I'm going to make Bombay Shanghai,
Bombay
or I'm
has
going
to
to
be
make
Bombay.
I'm going to make Delhi into Washington DC. And isn't that the biggest learning?
I feel we, because of our experience, I don't know about you guys, you tell me about yours, but for us, when we go to any new city, it just, whatever is wrong or right about the city, just the city talks to us. So, you just feel the flow of the city, and your solutions come out of that interaction of yourself with the city. So that is something that we need to cultivate. That I think that is the biggest achievement of our both Akash and I, and now we are trying to for our next team of people. So it's how can you measure that feeling? It's immeasurable.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
invaluable. So that feeling is something that you must get from and those are visceral feelings of humans. We as embedded in nature. So we have those feelings and we don't need to be taught about that. It comes from within.
Being human.
Yes.
Being human. Being naturally
Yeah,
human.
that's what like the humane and human cities.
You have
Yeah.
to feel it, right?
And that's one of the biggest criticism that I generally sort of also have is that more and more of our cities are looking like the same, right? It's this.
Yeah.
It's this following this 90-meter road. After that comes 60. After that comes 45, and after that comes 24. And you know that
Glass.
everything will be glass. There will be a CBD here. There will be.
Even when I came from Borivali today, the new developments are the ones which have a boundary wall with the glass buildings and all. But the older ones have the mixed use, the lower level and the small grain things. I don't understand. The big developers, have they lost the plot in Mumbai? I thought Mumbai is sorted that way.
So yeah, we have.
We
they
have our
have
own
so
set of
much
challenges.
parking that they have to fit in that the first 6 levels are just.
But then
parking.
you could at
Podiums.
least have a shop liner.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
It
that
is-
we have seen like Europe and all. There is no less parking. Japan has a lot of all of these places have parking, but you don't shout out the parking towards the roadside. Firstly, you hide it behind. Secondly, you should have active edges.
Yeah.
It becomes safer for the people.
Yeah.
Or you have
Absolutely.
grills, something which is like
More transparent and
yeah,
see-through.
I think that's also where cross conversations come. We probably check that plan from a coding point of view and a bylaws point of view, but we never check that plan from a human point of view. We never check कि अगर उसके नीचे कोई somebody is getting robbed, then the auntie is on the 10th floor, the first auntie, whereas in Mumbai that auntie has always been literally at 3 meters. So the first one to pop out and be like, "Hey, kya kar raha hai?" is that auntie. So that's why it's so safe and vibrant. And today when you scream, that auntie is on the 10th floor, probably watching her own show and is not bothered about what is happening.
So
on the street
I'm
anymore.
not, in fact, I'm not against parking or roads. Having roads is good.
It's good,
But
yeah.
it is just that equity. Like
Yeah,
you just
it's
have
the
to
edge
give
conditions.
the right amount of space for the road. You have to give the right amount of space for parking. Push the parking at the back. Why do you have to show it? What should you have on the road? How can you make your streets walkable? Those kind of little changes.
So I think we're coming towards the end of our time. So I have one question that I really want to ask. So I want you to tell me 3 challenges as a woman leader in your personal life that you faced, and how did you overcome those? Because I think that's so important today. You are actually our first woman on our podcast series. So yay. So I'm very happy that this is happening. But just normal things that people think is, "Arey, this is so easy to do," but it really isn't. So if you could talk
So,
of 3
firstly,
challenges.
I would like to say, though my partner is my husband, but you should have partners who promote women.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that really does help. So, my husband Akash, he's always pushed me to, do whatever I want to do, and not really. There are some kind of the male-centric
Yeah.
people who kind of try to. So, I have never felt it.
Yeah.
And there are certain things I've decided that I'm not going to do this, and even bringing the kids to office and all of those things. And after that, once I brought the kids to office, then a lot of our people who were there with us for a longer time, they got married. So we offered ki you can bring your kids. Some people do half day. So all of those things, you become more
Human.
Human.
Right?
Accommodating. Yes.
accommodating. So it's like we are all, from the same ecosystem, and we have to understand each other. So that is something, I think ladies bring that. I think we have an intuitive sense of how to handle people better, I feel. So that is something, so that is the reason why I like to sit in the studio with talking to people, because I have realized that I like to be with people, and that's where I should be. And
Any other challenges?
I always had stage fright.
So yeah, I have that too.
So I always had stage fright, not because of being a woman or something, but and my husband was from bachpan or whatever, from childhood he was a very good speaker and everything, and I had to kind of develop my own style. So that was also a journey, and I feel that I'm fortunate to have had that journey, to develop your own style and be confident about it. And being a woman, I think that's it. Like I don't, because we have. I feel women are better in our office. Like we have more women, but now we have very good guys also.
Yeah, no, definitely.
No offense.
No offense, yeah. All of us bring our own ideas to our table, and another thing I just wanted to, because you're ending the podcast, each of us are special human beings. That's what I tell my staff also. We bring something special to the table. So we, as right now the leaders of our team, we understand those people for what they are, and to extract out their personality and try to understand them, because one person will be different from the other. So trying to polish that person according to what they are. So that particular DNA that the person has, if that comes out, we are happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is better for all of us.
Yeah, I think if the office space is fun and you can bring your personalities there, then as a designer you would bring it onto the sites, and ultimately it would give us that opium that we want, that everybody else is
Even in our
enjoying.
office, the people in our office, they get the opium. Once the project starts happening on site, they go crazy.
Everybody loves it, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
Good.
Then there has to be an awkward silence in every podcast. That actually is a sign of a really good podcast.
Surprise! Yeah, I think that's a lot of good thought to kind of ponder over and think about. How do you make office a good space? How do you make all the spaces, no matter scale, city, nation, globe, planet, ecosystem, or whatever, everything should have humane values, I guess. So I think that's a good takeaway and something to ponder over.
Yeah, I think a lot of good learnings from overall conversation. One was that let's not box ourselves into I'm a landscape architect or I'm an architect or an urban designer, I'm this and I'm that. Instead, just think about it as a normal person. Try and feel what really bothers you. Work towards how can we solve something that is bothering us.
It's also a journey about your own self.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to feel that you're special. Before, when we were young, all of us felt, whatever, then we went through the stages. So once you do a certain kind of work for a longer time and you become more mature, then you kind of start having that confidence about yourself.
Yeah. And then also one thing that I really like to sort of appreciate about both Akash and Sujata are something that they have this magnanimity about themselves. Like they were the star back in the day. They called StudioPod. Okay, we pick up the phone and we're talking to them, and in the background everyone is just laughing, saying this fangirl or boy moment happened in our studio where everybody's giggling.
Like Oasis
Oasis is calling. And then they sort of approach and say that, this site competition is in Mumbai. Would you like to participate and, partner together and collaborate together? Unfortunately, we had already signed up with someone on that one. But that gesture, that one gesture of yours has had a big impact, because that's what made me come to Delhi and make sure I made time to come and meet you guys, because I really sort of found some people that I could voice my opinion with, or share my thoughts with. I felt welcome on day one, and thank you for that gesture. I think it has meant a lot to us over all these years. We've looked up to you and Oasis Design for all the other mentorship that you often offer, directly or indirectly, and the leadership that you offer. And it's this magnanimity that really is the essence that we need to carry forward, and also make sure that it spreads. And that's the only way probably we'll have 10,000 more StudioPOD's and Oasis Design coming together and being part of this change that needs to come as a movement where we start caring more about our cities and our places. So on that note, I'd like to thank Sujata again for participating in this podcast with us and sharing these valuable gems with us. Thank you all for listening in.
Yay.
And hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.